Hey, good afternoon, and welcome to the Western States Veterans Panel. Thank you all for coming. My name is Andy Jones-Wilkins, and I'm really thrilled that all of you are here this evening. Hey, everybody in the hallway, come on in, or shut up, or close the doors. Thank you, James and Gary. I want to start by thanking the Western States Organization, Craig Thornley, Race Director, John Medinger, President of the Board, and the rest of the Board for giving us the opportunity to have this event each year. The goal of this evening is to just have an opportunity for you all to hear from 4 Western States veterans about the race. If you're in the crowd and you're running the race, you're eager to hear a little bit of last-minute tidbits about what it means to run Western States. And if you're a crew or a pacer, you're interested in hearing what that means. But you know, what brings us here every year is a year's worth of hard labor. And Craig and his staff and the board do an incredible job. So I'd like to, let's just get it up for Craig and his team. You know, when you run an event, that has a 5% chance of being able to participate in it, it could get pretty easy to get kind of cheeky and smug and elitist. And these guys don't. You know, Western States is about everybody. I know there are people in this room who waited 7 years to be here. And there are people in this room who are lucky enough to be here because they got that 4% chance to get in. But however you got here, you're here now, in Squaw Valley, a few short hours before you start. I'd like to just do a little audience participation before we get going. And who here, and you're gonna have to stand up, is a runner in the race, running their first 100-miler as the Western States 100. Please stand up. All right. Stay standing. Please stay standing, because you know one of the things that Western States has believed in strongly, and I had to be convinced of, is that Western States is a race that you can run your first 100-miler in. I doubted it for a long time, and now I'm convinced. So for you all, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, good luck. Get out there, get after it. And we're all going to be cheering for you. Who here is running Western States as their first time at Western States? You've run a 100-miler before, but this is your first time here. Okay, stay up. You've run a 100-miler before. You know what it's like. You know what it's like to puke, and but this one's different, everybody. You won't know until you get out there, but we're with you all. And when you get to Michigan Bluff, and you're like, God, I never had blisters before. There are people who have never had blisters before. I bet some of you have never had blisters. Western States blisters are special. They're like bigger and pulpier. It's like orange juice with IPA and a little bit of coffee mixed in. But even if you run another 100, as all of you have, you're running your first Western States. Savor it. Don't let it pass you by. And even when it gets bad, make it good. Because it will be. Ultimately, it'll be good. So good for you all. Thank you. It's a lot of first timers in the room. Now, there's people in the room who aren't running the race. If you're a pacer or a crew and are not running the race, stand up. Stand up right now. All right, pacers and crews who are running the race. Okay, runners, you all let these people sleep and eat and do whatever they're going to be there saying, oh, you need to sleep, you need to eat. Make sure you take care of these people, especially in the next 18 hours. Buy all their food here in Squaw. Buy all the beer they need. Make sure they have extra coolers. Make sure you tell them that they need to buy a lot of ice. Okay, take care of these pacers and crews, because they're going to share in the experience of Western States with you all. They really are. And sharing the experience of Western States, especially when it's something that happens so infrequently, is amazing. Pacers and crews, you guys have this. Make sure your runner gets from here to Auburn. Okay? All right, we're good. So we have an incredible panel here this evening. We've done this now for 5 or 6 years. And I'm thrilled to open the evening to this group of 4 runners that represent the spectrum, from people who have come very close to winning, to people who have come very close, extraordinarily, excruciatingly close to not finishing. And all of them have stories to tell. All of them have ways in which they've experienced the trail from Squaw Valley to Auburn in their own unique ways. So what I'm going to do at the beginning is ask each of them to introduce themselves. We'll start with Danny here. He's going to tell you who he is, how many times he's run Western States, and one bit of wisdom that he wishes for all of you to know before you set out on that trail on Saturday. And then we'll roll into questions and take it from there.
Stand?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everyone stands. Even Gunhild.
Hi, I'm Dan Westergaard, and I've done the race 9 times. The first year was 1993, so it's taken me a while to get to this point. So I'm going for my 10th finish. I'm hoping for that 1,000-mile belt buckle. I've been doing ultras for 26 years now. I did my first 100 26 years ago. And words of wisdom, let's see. Probably the most important thing, as most of you know already, I mean, it's going to be a roller coaster out there. And anybody that thinks, it's going to be a walk in the park or it's all going to be roses out there, I mean, you know better, it's not. And so, so go into it knowing that there's going to be those really tough spots, lows in the roller coaster. And it's just a matter of getting through those lows, because it's going to get better. A lot of people will have stomach issues or blisters or a number of things, and it's easy to quit at that point, but don't do it. Just forget about the finish line, forget about the next 50 miles you have. Just get to the next aid station. That's all you have to do, is get to the next aid station, and guarantee it, you'll start feeling better at some point. Especially the heat of the day. I mean, I've always had issues in the canyons. 100+ degrees, your stomach goes south, and you just need to fight through that. I mean, everybody knows that, and just get through that low spot. And once it starts cooling off, you're going to feel great and start running faster, and you'll get back on track. So that's it. So just remember, yes you can, and yes you will. All right. Thanks.
Hi everyone, my name's Ian Sharman. I'm a coach and a runner. This is my 7th time here. So I've had 6 top 10s in a row so far, so hoping to continue that for a little bit longer. So the first time I did it was 2010. It's become a lot more international in the last few years. As you can probably tell, I'm not American, I'm from the UK, but I do live over here. So so I'm a coach. This is the biggest focus race of me for the year, as it is, I'm sure, for pretty much everyone here who's running. The one thing I'd say about a really useful tip that can still help at this point is you've done all the hard work, you're physically ready for this. So that isn't going to be the weakest link. It's going to be your mind, that you either choose to finish or you choose not to. And you can find excuses along the way, and you might be thinking, oh, well, my stomach's gone south, or I'm not going to get the time I want to do, so you choose to stop. Or you allow yourself to gradually get timed out. So the main thing I would say that will allow you to have a good race, not just to finish it, is to 100% commit to saying that you're going to finish it no matter what. Unless you're being taken away in an ambulance, or the doctors are saying that you have to stop and there's nothing they can do about it, make sure that you're going to finish it. And even if your goal is that sub 24-hour buckle, if it's to win the race, whatever it is, you've got to be prepared to walk it in and finish in, 29, 59, 56?
54! Don't chip her out at 2 seconds!
If you're not prepared to do that, then at some point when you have a low patch, you'll decide that everything's getting a bit negative and suddenly you start slowing down and you lose all motivation. So it's really important to be willing to keep going no matter how bad it gets. And then when things are going well, it's a bonus. You're cruising along, you eat up some miles. When it goes a bit worse, you say, okay, this is what makes it so valuable. This is why you're here and why that buckle at the end will mean so much. So no one's going to have an easy race out there. The people at the front, people at the back, everyone's going to have to go through hard parts. Those are the bits that'll test you, and they're the bits that when they happen, you've got to turn it on and decide that no matter what you're going to finish, even if it means you finish slower, but usually that means that you find a way to get through it, and because of that, you can often get back onto your A goal again.
Hi, I'm Erika Lindland, and I just have to start by saying this is really weird to be on the veterans panel, because I remember when I was doing my first 100, which was Western States in 2011, and Craig Thornley was on the panel before he was race director, and he told me I was going to puke. He said all people running 100 milers were going to puke, and have not puked yet, Craig, just to let you know. But I have run the race 4 times, this will be my 5th, and my biggest piece of advice is to be patient. That's kind of my mantra for most ultras, especially in hundreds, and especially this race. I got to Robinson Flat, which is 30 miles into the race, slower than almost any year that I've ever done it, and I ended up racing an hour faster than I ever had. So I was freaked out at the time that, oh my gosh, my race is done and it's over, but it ended up working out really well, and that was because I went slower in the first 30. So be patient.
Hi, I'm Gunhild Swanson, and I'm 71 years old this year, and I'm a grandma, great-grandma. I have 3 great-grandchildren, and my whole family is really proud of me that I do what I do. And I've been running, gosh, since 1978, pretty much consistently, year-round. Strong, mostly been focusing on marathons most of the years. Ran my first ultra in 1987, but still didn't really make it a habit. I still stuck with my husband and I. We ran marathons mostly, and then eventually I gravitated to trail running and ultra, the real stuff. I'm loving it, and I've run 8 100s and 3 times Western States. This will be my 4th, and I certainly hope to beat last year's time. And my advice is, if you're lucky enough to have a pacer, pay attention to, listen to your pacer. They can help you immensely. I found that this last year, I would have never gotten through without having them by my side and helping me through the rough spots. and when I did doubt myself. And my grandson, my 15-year-old grandson was one of my pacers, and my son was another, and then a friend. And my grandson happened to be on one section, and I was doubting myself. I can't make it. I'm going to drop at highway. And he turns around, he looks me in the eye, and he says, "Nana, stop that. Just shake it off. Shake it off. You can do it. I know you're going to do it 100%. Just follow me." So, listen to your pacers.
Thank you for those wonderful words of introduction, and I do have individual questions for each panelist before we open up questions to the audience, but I need to go off script for a second. I think everybody in this room probably saw Gunhild's dramatic finish last year. I was there in person, and I've always liked the golden hour, that hour between 29 and 30, but the stripped, raw aspect of being a human being, of simply living a life, I've never seen anything like that.
Thank you.
And what you did, and the fact that you get to come back again.
I know.
Damn, don't make us go through that again.
I promise.
When she said, Andy, Rob Carr said my last mile was 7:30.
So,
You probably haven't run a 7:30 in a long time. All right, Erika, you're starting. Erika Lindland was very, very modest in her introduction of herself. She is a 4-time Western States finisher and is an incredible study in how you run this race. How, if you're fortunate enough to find your way into it and you understand how to run it and you're able to measure yourself. You know, she mentioned it, she got to Robinson Flat at 6:27 last year. I did my own. 6:36.
Yeah.
Even worse. Well, then maybe you got here at 6:27 and left in 6:36. You're probably hanging out, talking to Carl's family and stuff because you were catching up to him, and we saw that in the movie. We'll see it in the movie again. But Erika, what you did in these 4 years is, really, I don't want to take anything away from like Magda or Casey and anybody, but you should win this year. Based on the way you've progressed from an over 24 runner to, right. So how have you progressed, and what advice would you give to, a runner who wants to be, you preach patience, I get that, I understand that, but how have you done that like in your training and on race day? If things are going well, if they're not going well, how have you found a way to get to like Robinson Flat and just keep marching on?
Do I stand?
Yes, everyone stands.
Okay.
Yeah.
Last year was interesting. I preach patience, and that was my goal going into it. But honestly, my body just wouldn't move forward the way I wanted it to. So it was more my body kind of holding me back and not me mentally saying, okay, well, I really should slow down. It was me being frustrated and actually quite upset by the time I got to Robinson. In general, just going into it with knowing it's going to be a really long day, and knowing that the more you kind of save in the first part of the race, you're going to have that much more energy. Your legs are going to feel better. Your stomach's probably going to be better later in the race. I've never had better energy at mile 80 than I did last year. Everything was great. When I got to Robinson, I decided to reassess my goals. My goal going into it was sub 22. Got to Robinson and I reassessed and told my crew, okay, I'm just going to go for 24 hours. So I stopped looking at my watch completely. Didn't actually look at my watch again until I got to Devil's Thumb or Michigan Bluff. And at that point, I just dialed it back, and I wanted to feel as good as possible. So I ran at a pace that felt not miserable, was how I felt all the way to Robinson. So as long as I wasn't miserable, I knew I was doing okay. And then things just kind of slowly started to get better, and you kind of come down out of altitude, and I still don't know what really happened to me in that first part, but that is my strategy going into this year, is not to worry about my time getting into Robinson in the first 30 miles. I was actually contemplating not going with a watch, but logistically in the morning, that I don't think that's going to work very well. So my strategy is to not look at my watch, but just go by feel, and especially in the first 30. I would say go by feel all the way to mile 80 and then see how you're doing. But yeah, it's just been my first Western States. I had horrible GI issues, and so I really worked on my fueling strategy, and I've learned what works for me, and that has also made me feel pretty good towards the end of a race. So I do liquid only, and I've incorporated tailwind, so I'm getting probably 200 calories an hour, whereas before I was doing maybe 100, and at the end of a 100 miler, the 100 calories an hour didn't work very well. So yeah, patience is, if you can just tell yourself, you know, be patient. Every little bit that I save in this first 30, 50, 80 miles is going to be that much better towards the end. So, did that answer it right?
Yeah, it does. 100 calories an hour?
That's what I did.
I'd like blow away.
Until the last couple of years, yeah.
Danny, come on, man. You're going for number 10. Right here, going for number 10. How many? Oh, dude. How many? And you're a unique number 10. How many have been under 24?
Only one.
Only one.
One time.
So that's a lot of time on the trail,
A lot of time.
right? And do you anticipate being over 24?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
In my mind, I would love to go before the body's
So, I mean, that kind of, I mean, that's, you may end up being a 10-timer with the most hours on the trail. So, no, this is not an elite panel. We're not talking about a press conference here. What have you done? This is a serious question. What have you done to keep the staying power through? I mean, there's people who are at the track who've gone to their hotel and showered and cleaned up and eaten breakfast and come back, and you're still out there. Like, what do you do?
building my confidence.
I don't know any of those. I don't know any of those people. But you're here doing number 10.
I am.
And look at this guy. Stand up. He's not like a fat, out of shape guy who sits around and eats at Cracker Barrel. You know, everybody runs this race differently. What is it that's made you just kind of keep coming back, keep getting it done, keep making it real?
That's quite an intro there. Now he's got me doubting myself. I guess just stubbornness. I mean, I've always been good at persevering, especially you know, against all odds. If somebody says I can't do something, I'm going to do it. And it's been a long haul, and I've had some rough races out there, and but I seem to get through them. I've had a lot of stomach issues over the years, and so my time goals go out the window as soon as that happens, but you just readjust things and get to the finish. So the other, what else do you want? What's kept me going over the years?
Yeah, what's kept you going?
Yeah, lack of brain cells, probably. I've been out in bad water too many times, and the heat's gotten to me, so I just keep going. But yeah, I mean, several times when you're out there, I mean, everybody's probably gone through it where you figure this is my last 100. I'm not, you know, stick with the 50s or 50Ks, you know, do something easier. But yeah, you just forget the pain and forget all the wonderful times, and there's nothing like crossing the finish line. I mean, you feel like Superman, you're on top of the world, and you know, everybody's capable of that. I mean, you've all trained, you've done your work, you've made the sacrifices, and so there's, you know, I'm nothing special. I'm just an average runner, you know, that's bullheaded, and that's what you have to be. Just, never say never. You just get out there and get through it and get it done.
You've had 900 miles on the course.
Yeah.
When was like your lowest point? Like you wanted to drop, you wanted to catch it in, you want to be done. Tell us about that and how you got through it.
Okay, definitely stomach issues. I was laying on the cot in Michigan Bluff one year, and it was starting to get dark. I was pushing the cutoffs, and a lot of times, if you can't find something within yourself to keep going, you look at outside. I mean, look at your family, your friends, your kids that are there supporting you, and the sacrifices they have made. And a lot of times, you know, if you can't figure out how to do it on your own, then you think of the other people that are involved in it and supporting you. The year that I was on the cot, and I had 3 young daughters, and they were all there, and they were like 3, 5, and 7, and they'd been waiting at Michigan Bluff for hours and hours for me, you know, in the heat, but yeah, when I came in, they were just so excited to see me, and you know, hugging me, and I went straight to the cot and crashed, and figured I was going to stay there, but and looking at their little faces, it's like I couldn't let them down, and so I got my butt back up, and sure enough, once it started cooling off and my stomach came back and I started getting food in me again, and it came around, and I actually had a super strong finish. So so just never give up, just keep persevering.
Awesome. Holy cow. Hey, I'm looking forward to seeing you go around that track.
Me too.
Yeah, that's gonna feel good. All right. We have a runner on the panel this year who's run the race 6 times and been in the top 10 6 times, and is going for a 7th consecutive top 10. It gets harder every year. The competition gets greater every year. And Ian Sharman rises to the occasion against that competition every year. How, Ian, do you deal with the pressure of that? And most specifically, you know, for the group here in the room, when you have a down spot, when you have I mean, I know you've run, 15 times that begin with 15. How do you deal with that in the context of the day and how it flows? And what advice might you have to the room on when things go bad, how you might be able to bring it back up?
So one thing that I found the last few years is that even if I improve my time, I don't necessarily improve my position. So I've not broken into the top 3 yet, so that is definitely a big goal. But sometimes I think the fastest run that I did here, I came 6th. And I was half an hour slower than that when I came 4th. So every year, the level just keeps going up, which means that I have to keep improving to stay in the same place, which is a little bit depressing when you start seeing all these fast guys and you go, okay, well, if I'd just done this 10 years ago, that would have been a winning time, and that would have been a nice way to do it. But obviously, because of that, there's a lot more pressure to stay in the top 10, and the one time that I came 10th, I only got into that very close to the end. So I actually find the top, as I'm sure Andy did as well when he was running and he got his 7 top 10s, that is a massive motivator. So whatever can really, really inspire you to keep moving, that's what you need to grab onto. When you're at mile 70 or at mile 80 and something's gone wrong, or you're puking, or whatever it is that's causing you to have a low patch, you've got to have something so solid that it means so much to you. So when I came 10th, I was in 15th at halfway, I got it down to about 11th, and then usually at the river, a few guys drop out, and I thought, okay, I'm in 11th, I'll be in 8th at the end without passing anyone. No one dropped out that year. So I then had 5 hours of running in 11th and thinking this will be incredibly depressing if I miss out on that 10th place, I don't get to come back. So I was just driving as much as I could. And I think that was probably the most effort I've ever put in. It wasn't the quickest I've been, but that knowledge that 11th to 10th was worth so much to me was able to push me on more. Last year was another one that, again, I had to find ways to motivate myself because things didn't quite go to plan. So I came into it in 2015 fitter than I've ever been before. And for all of you who are fitter than you've ever been before, and I'm sure there's quite a lot of you here, bear in mind that that doesn't guarantee that it'll go well. That was a big lesson that I had last year, that I thought, okay, I'm fitter, I will definitely go faster. It's going to be easier, there won't be any suffering, or it'll be very minimal. Completely false. It doesn't matter how fit you are, you just push a bit harder, or there's still things in a 100-mile that are going to get thrown up that make it very difficult to keep yourself moving at the paces you want to go. And especially is that the higher you raise the bar for yourself, the harder it is to stay at that, because every little thing can knock you away from it. So in particular, the sub 24-hour buckle, as I'm sure, again, a lot of people in the room are aiming for that, and it'll be something that'll really drive you on. But the danger is, if you start dropping off that pace, suddenly it looks like you're going to hit 25 hours and you're going to be an hour off. And you've had a low patch and you can't see how you're going to bring it back. A lot of people at that point will lose all motivation. Like I was saying before, that you've got to be able to find really positive ways to turn any little negative into something that can work for you. So, for example, if you're feeling a bit crappy, you're running along, you're going slower than you think, instead of saying to yourself all the negative things of my legs hurt, I feel tired, how can I keep going? I'm not going to get the 24-hour buckle. Instead, try and say to yourself, well, I'm moving forward. I don't have any injuries at the moment. My stomach seems to be okay. Think of all the positive things and then try and fix the negatives. So if you've got a low energy, if you're overheating, whatever it is, try and identify that as early as you possibly can so you can minimize the effect of it and not get demotivated. As I said, the mental side of it is what makes the biggest difference. And so last year, when I was dropping off the pace a little bit, I just kept using that thought of being in the top 10. I've got to keep that going, and that at least kept me moving forward at a good pace. I probably gave in a bit more than I should have last year, but it was enough to still give me a good result. So finding ways to turn your negatives into positives and not dwell on the negatives, and a particular one that can happen in any trail race, but especially here, and it's happened to me twice here, is getting lost. So if you add on a mile, suddenly you start thinking all these things are going wrong, and you maybe added on 10 or 15 minutes, but you're thinking about how your time goals have gone out the window, you don't have enough water to get to the next aid station, all of the negatives come in there. So instead, adjust to the new reality. If your stomach's gone south, adjust to that being a reality, and you're going to do your best from this point, not the best of what you hoped it would be like. The same with if you're going slower, you're overheating. Don't just keep running regardless on your A plan of what you thought it was going to be like and how you hoped it would be. Instead, adjust to how you actually feel and how the race is actually going. And that way you get the best result for that day, for your fitness, and you can walk away with it knowing that it's the best you could have done, rather than complaining, going, oh, if it hadn't been so hot, or if I hadn't done this or that, I know I could have done better. So.
All right. Oh, hey, with the getting lost thing, only guys who go really fast get lost. So, like, you know what I mean? He just got lost because they hadn't put the markers out yet. So, please don't.
Andy, didn't Gunhild get lost?
Oh, Gunhild got lost. Well, that was because they took the markers down already. I mean, it's like, it's getting lost at Western States. Oh, goodness. Well, Ian is going for his 7th top 10, and I think we'll all be looking at that. It's an interesting race this year. It's kind of lots of dynamic up in the front of the field, but I think we expect to see you, at least in the top 3. I mean, if you weren't in the top 3, it'd probably be a failure. What do you think? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it'd be a failure. If he's 4th, it's like, forget it. Craig, don't even invite him back if he's 4th. On the other hand, if Gunhild finishes, and she will, I want to talk a little bit about your, obviously much has been made of your race last year, but I want to talk about what you've done this year. Your name miraculously got pulled out of the goo barrel, and you're back again. You've had 140 days to prepare. A lot of people in this room who are running the race have won nothing more than a 29, 59, 54 finish.
Oh, don't do that. It's not good for you.
But I'm curious to hear about as you reflected on that, all that happened, then you got into the rest of your life, and September came in October, and you're dealing with your life, and then you're into the race again. How have you prepared into this race, and what of the ways in which you've prepared might be words of wisdom for the group here tonight, and in that context.
Last year after the finish, my life just really became a big whirlwind, something I'm absolutely not used to, and it distressed me a lot. And you go with it, and people were really sincere and their good wishes to me and accolades and all that. So there's a lot of good that happened. And then I kind of gradually, my life happened and I went back to my life. I signed up for some ultras this spring, and and then I decided, well, shoot, I have to better my time. I have to do better than that. I had some extenuating circumstances last year, I'm gonna do better. So I set about training. First thing I did is I called my coach back. And last year, for the first time in my life, I had coaching. And I think it really helped tremendously. So I called her back and I says, guess what? I'm gonna do this again. I got pulled again. And trace and pulled my ticket. Oh my gosh, now I'm on. I have to do this. And I was faithful with what I was told to do. And every run out there, I tried to do what I was asked to do and do the best I could, and watch the nutrition and pay attention to everything else, but also still live my life, and more than anything, train my head. My body has done this before. It knows what it's doing. It knows. But my head needs to be on board, and my head needs to tell my body, you are going to do this. No shadow of a doubt. So when you start worrying about it and you're despairing of maybe a run doesn't go as well as you'd hoped, think about the positive. You prepare by saying, but I know I can do this. Maybe I didn't have a good day today, or maybe I didn't have a good week, or maybe I got the flu and was off a few days, but by God, I know how to do this. So I'm going to get right back in the saddle, and I'm going to just keep on pushing, keep on believing in myself, and I'll get there. So I guess it remains to be seen. I'm 100% committed. I'm the best I can be. I'm as strong as I can be. My mind believes that I'm going to finish before the 30 hours on Sunday. And so for all of you, I guess the takeaway is if things aren't going the way they should, and you start having doubts, and just believe in yourself. Train your mind. Your body knows what to do as long as your mind tells your body what to do.
Yeah. Thank you. And by the way, you can still train your mind in the next 36 hours. Thank you so much. That was great. This is the time we have time for questions. We've got a great group here, about 30 finishes amongst them. If you might have a question about how to deal with heat, or working with your crew and your pacer, or understanding how things might go if your feet go awry or your stomach goes south, I know these people up at the panel have some ideas about that. Any questions in the crowd? Right here.
I have one question just about weight. I mean, I know historically there have been instances where the scales were used and you had to weigh yourself to kind of assess your hydration and so forth. I mean, what's any sort of message for you guys as far as managing weight and hydration and electrolytes and such?
Managing weight, hydration, and electrolytes.
Yeah. Well, I believe now you don't have to be weighed, is that right? Yeah. So they used to wear multiple aid stations. You do that, and you'd have it written down on your wristband of what your starting weight was, and then you could compare to that, as would the medics there. Ultimately, when you're sweating this much, when you're exercising this much, your weight should be going down. So because of you're losing liquids, and most importantly, you're using up the carbohydrate stores that are in your muscles, and as that's released, it also releases water. So if you stay even the same weight, you're probably going to be a little bit overhydrated, and you're in more danger of getting hyponatremia. So the important thing really is, as long as you're drinking to thirst, that is the simplest rule. So make sure you've got enough liquids with you. Make sure you know how far it is between the different aid stations, so that if it's a bigger gap, and it's maybe a hotter time of day, you're carrying enough that when you are thirsty, you can drink. Overall as well, I'd say if you can get in calories at the same time as drinking, then you're getting hydration and energy levels increased as well. So having, whether it's Coke from the aid stations, some kind of Gatorade, the Cliff electrolyte drink, any of these that are going to give you basically more nutrition and more energy, then that's going to be a better way of hydrating than just drinking water. But also do it based on what you've done in your training. So if certain things upset your stomach, if you have Gatorade, it always makes you ill, or you can't have Coke in a race, or whatever it might be, then make sure you're not doing anything different on race day, and that's the oldest advice in the book. But most importantly, if you can get in some calories at the same time as hydrating, then that's the easiest way to do it. It's easier than getting them in through food, because that's a little bit harder to digest. But simply put, I mean, when you go on the scales at any point in the race, well, I can't remember if it's optional or if they just check it anyway, then you should be seeing your weight come down a little bit. And by the end of the race, you'd expect to maybe be about 3% down. Certainly, it could be more than that. Like, a good example is Gabri Selassie, the Ethiopian world record holder in multiple distances, gold medalist at the Olympics. When he set the world record for the marathon, he lost over 10% of his body weight. And this is a very skinny guy. So it's not like losing lots of weight there was detrimental to his performance. If it was, he wouldn't have set the world record. Obviously that meant that he was also very well adapted, and his ability to sweat and lose weight and still perform well was above average, as were all his other running abilities. But you should expect for your weight to be coming down. If it stays the same or it's gone up, be very careful. You probably are drinking a little bit too much, and that can cause a lot more problems, including dizziness, vomiting, diarrhea, and potentially even death. So you want to be very careful if you do that for too long.
Okay, we'll take the mic out. Okay, sit down, Ian. We're the British guy talking about that. All right, so vomiting. I got to talk about vomiting for a second. Don't stop when you puke. It's really good to puke, and many of you will puke. Pacers will even puke. Crews might even puke. Craig might puke. I mean, there are instances of people at Western States who've like puked up in pretty much everything. So the thing about puking is it makes you into the 6-year-old you were when you puked. Like, the world is coming to an end. The bile is coming out my nose. The pink froth that's coming out my ears. It's nasty. Just puke and get it over with and keep going. Any other questions? Come on, I know there's questions. Right now, any other questions besides that one in the back? Yes, Scott?
This question is actually for Danny Westergaard.
Yeah.
Danny, I know you ran your first 100 miler back in 1990, but I couldn't help but notice that you have 9 finishes at Western States, but you also have 9 finishes at Badwater. Are you getting your 10th at both Western States and Badwater this year?
That's the plan. I've been lucky enough the last 9 years in a row to finish Badwater. And so, yeah, it just so happened both of them came up on this year, so this is my year of 10s. And I also, there's a bike race that Chris Kosman, the race director of Badwater, puts on, the 508. And I've also done that the last 9 years, so I'm hoping to get my 10th on that as well in September. Yeah.
So 10 Western States, 10 Badwaters, and 10 508s.
I'll play.
Well, we'll be watching. What's your Twitter handle? You want to tell everybody?
No Twitter.
No Twitter. Not surprising. Yes, James.
So I've got a question about heat. I'm from the Northwest. My runner's from the Northwest. I have a feeling that she didn't train much for the heat. Danny, I think you have a great probably feel for running the heat, but I'm curious, everybody on the panel, what secrets you might guys have for runners in the heat?
That's a good call. How about we go down the line, starting with Gunhild, like secrets for the heat. Spokane, Bay Area, Bend/Bay Area. I don't know where you live, but I'm sure it's somewhere hot. Little secrets for the heat.
That's difficult. Spokane, just a week ago, I was running for a few hours on Tower Mountain, and I dressed in tights and wind pants, a long sleeve shirt, a fleece shirt, a jacket, a hat, and tried to put in a few miles on the trail, some steep stuff. I got to the top, and darn, my hands were cold. Why didn't I bring gloves? So, needless to say, heat training's been hard, to say the least. So when I got done with that run, I got in the car, I turned the heat on full blast, just as hot as I had it just blasting right on me as I'm driving, warming my hands back up. And I drove to the YMCA and I got in the sauna for 45 minutes, and I kind of moved around, just to keep from being bored. I don't know. I've never asked anybody. I know people get in the sauna, so I figured, well, that must be a good thing. So I did that about, I don't know, 5 times, and between half an hour and 50 minutes, I think. That's all I could stand it. So I don't have any big secrets. I'm still an experiment of one on that score. We'll see how it turns out.
What I would tell your runner now is that girls have a special advantage in that we wear sport bras, and ice in the sport bra is really, really handy. And then if you're running down the trail and you want to eat some, you can just pull it out. It actually works really well.
I've done it. I mean, I've done sports bra.
Okay.
Yeah, but not ice. I've never done ice.
The other thing is, what I find really handy to take through the canyons is I take an extra, I use a pack generally, I take an extra water bottle just for dousing myself, and I just put pure ice in it. And again, then you can eat the ice, you can carry, having the ice in your hands, it helps cool me down. And then just the typical ice around the neck and ice anywhere you can get it and stay wet the whole day, as much as you can. There's lots of creeks on the course that you can cool down in.
So the kind of tips I'm going to say are things I've seen at Badwater. I've crewed there 4 times, so I've seen the kind of things that Danny gets into there, where it gets even hotter. Basically, the main thing was trying to do some heat training the last couple of weeks, so it was a bit late for that. So basically, when you've got a hot day, like it looks like it'll be a bit above average. The last forecast I saw was showing it maybe being about 99, 100 in Auburn on race day, which is a bit above the normal. So that means it's going to be slower. So the first thing is accept it's going to be a little bit slower. It's nice to have some goals for the splits all through the race, but especially if you haven't done this particular race before, they're only guesses anyway. And on a hot day, it's probably going to be even slower than that anyway. So when it is very hot, and if you haven't done as much heat training, just accept that you need to be running based on how you feel, not running to some kind of schedule. The other thing as well is in terms of cooling yourself when you are out there, they have ice at all the aid stations. Take advantage of it every time. As soon as you get to about Duncan Canyon and onwards, which is 23 miles or so, from that point it's going to be getting hot for everyone. So when you get into the canyons, it's going to be just dripping with sweat. When you get in past any water, any little streams, like Erika said, lie down in it. Dunk your hat in it, put it on your head. Put ice under your hat, in your arm sleeves, in your sports bra, in a bandana around your neck. Anywhere that you can stash some ice that's going to stay there is going to really help. And in particular, if you are starting to overheat and you maybe need to spend a few extra minutes at an aid station, there's 3 places that will really help to cool you down. That's any of the arteries that are taking blood away from the heart. So either side of your neck is going to help cool your head. So by putting a bit of ice against here, it will help. Putting ice under your armpits, and putting ice on the inner thigh as well. So that's helping to cool the extremities. You're basically using your blood like a reverse radiator to cool you down. And that you'll see at places like Badwater, where people will sit down and put bags of ice on those particular areas. You can do that at the aid stations as well in Western States to at least get some ice on those particular areas to cool yourself down a little bit quicker. So that's the main thing. Make sure you're getting access to ice as much as possible, that you've got cold liquids, like running with a water bottle full of ice, and then as that's melting, squirting it on your head between the aid stations. But you're going to be much more effective cooling yourself externally than internally. And by that I mean, if you drink loads and loads, even if it's cold liquids, that's not going to have much of a cooling effect. In scientific studies, that doesn't really have any effect on cooling you. It has to be done externally. So when you get hot, remember external cooling, not just drinking more. If you're thirsty, drink more, but if you're trying to cool yourself down, drinking alone won't be doing that.
Well, there's not much I can add. You pretty much covered it all, but for Badwater, it's all about the heat training. I mean, at this point, it's kind of late for that, but early on, you spend a lot of time in the sauna. For me, I live at sea level, right down the beach area, and so I don't get the heat training, so I spend a lot of time sitting in the sauna, hours at a time, and just drinking and hydrating. But at this point, like they said, just ice. Out of Badwater, we do a lot of ice. Ice in our bandanas, ice in the hat, spray bottle, keep yourself wet and cool, and that's about it. And then obviously, like they mentioned, adjust your effort level. I mean, when you're feeling lousy and hot, the worst thing you do is keep at your pace, because you're going to end up blowing up, and it's in your stomach, and everything's going to go south. So. During the heat of the day and the canyons, just slow down, and it'll pay dividends later. You'll get it back when the sun goes down, and you'll pick that time back up.
Thanks, Dan. Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely going to be a hot year. Not going to be the hottest, but it's not going to be an average year. It's going to be above average year, and you want to be ready for that. And for those of you who are crewing and pacing out there, I mean, these words of advice are really important. The little things matter, especially getting in the water, staying wet, staying lubed up, taking advantage of the ice. I think the amount of ice that the race provides is, I mean, it's extraordinary. It could create a whole new Disney movie. So you want to make sure that you're ready for that. And you know what, if it ends up being a benign day and it's like 91 in Auburn, you're like, woohoo, we're good. One last question, because I want to make, yeah, right here.
With the snow melt and river crossing, do you change your shoes or not?
Oh, that's a good question. So with water and shoes, do you change, do you not change? How do you play that out? We'll go down this way.
Initially, I always did. I always have a pair of shoes and socks in the drop bag there. But lately, I haven't been. And your shoes will dry, by the time you get to Green Gate, you have a 2-mile hike up. Last year, my shoes and socks were totally dry by then. So for me, for Western or even Badwater, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Or if it ain't broken, just leave it be. You don't need to fix it. So if your feet feel fine, leave your socks and shoes on. Don't change them. Just head out. But if it's gonna make a big difference to you, and you have the shoes and socks there, change them. It's gonna take some time, but if it makes that big of a difference to you, then go ahead and change them.
I've personally never changed shoes in a race or socks, but I always have had an option to do it, because there's a couple of reasons why you might want to. For example, when you have the last river crossing, the big one at mile 78, there's not going to be any other point that you get wet feet. So if you're going to do it at that point, at least your socks and shoes are going to stay dry. But this is a hot race. They do kind of dry off fairly quickly. But I also find that when you get late into this type of race, your feet are bloated, they're hurting. The hassle of taking off shoes and socks is pretty big. So I think it wouldn't just slow me down, it's more just the pain of peeling them off. Like at the finish line, when I take off my shoes and socks, there's no way I could get back into another pair. So I wouldn't try and do it in the race. But still, I have them available with my crew or in a drop bag, because then just in case, for example, your shoelace breaks or your shoe breaks open and gets ripped or something like that, at least you've got a backup. But I would say plan that whatever shoes and socks you're wearing are ones that you're confident you can run 100 miles in, that you've done enough training in them, you've done enough long runs that you know they work for that. I'd never recommend having something where you go, okay, these shoes feel good for about a 20 miler, but I know I have to change them. Don't even try wearing them in a 100 miler. Have stuff that you know can last 100 miles, and in case of emergency, have another option, but it's usually best to stick with plan A with that.
Yeah, I'd say having blisters and sore feet at that point is probably going to be the least of your concerns. At least it is for me. So I don't change. I do have the option, just like Ian, just in case. You never know what's going to happen. But I do not intend to change shoes unless I have major blisters. It's not a necessity.
Well, we're all on the same page. I have a pair of shoes and socks that I can change into, and I did the very first race, the very first Western States, my first 100, I did change, and I thought I'd wasted a lot of time. So after that, I have not changed. I have them there, but I haven't needed them, and I find my feet get dry just fine, and I keep on going, and I save myself a whole lot of time. And let's face it, I have to watch my time.
Yes, indeed, you do have to watch your time. And I think it's safe to say on Saturday and Sunday we'll all be watching your time.
Oh, God.
And Erika's, and Ian's, and Danny's. I've run this race 10 times. Last time was in 2014. I've never changed my shoes. I've worn an ice bandana. I've smiled a lot, I've cried a lot. I've wondered why I do this a lot. I've also realized that nothing makes me more of a human being than running the Western States 100. About 3 weeks ago, I woke up to the news that the greatest of all time had passed away. I think we all remember Muhammad Ali. And you can say what you want about Muhammad Ali, but I immediately thought about what he meant to me as a runner. Muhammad Ali was confident, resilient, and faithful. All of you runners out there right now, I want you to go into the race on Saturday confident, resilient, and faithful. Confident because you've done the work. Maybe you've done 40 or 50 or 60 miles a week. Maybe you've done 120 or 140 miles a week. Maybe you've sat in the sauna or traveled somewhere at no small expense to your family or your friends or your job. To build a sense of confidence, not cockiness, confidence. You have to stand on that starting line knowing that you're going to finish. You must. You might not, but you must stand on that starting line knowing you're going to finish. You've done the work. Then you need to know that shit's gonna happen. You're gonna get smacked around hard. Your feet are gonna hurt. Your quads are gonna get trashed. You're gonna be like, oh my God, this is nothing like those overpasses in Florida. But you need to take it. You need to take it like a 7-year-old takes his cough medicine. You gut it down. You deal with it. And then you push it the hell away. Like Muhammad Ali pushed the critique of his converting to Islam, pushed it away, or his conscientious objectiveness at the Vietnam War. He pushed it the hell away. When you're feeling like crap, climbing up El Dorado. By the way, that's the second canyon of 3 that ends in Michigan Bluff, where you get to see your crew, the same crew that saw you very happy and joyful at Robinson Flat and sees you looking like death 25 miles later. That's the Michigan Bluff I'm talking about. It's gonna suck ruthlessly. Push it away. And then have faith. And I'm not talking about, I might be talking about God faith or spirit faith or love faith, but I'm really talking about faith in what's in here, in all of us. That little piece of us. The 1/10 of 1% who bothers to be the 3,500 people who apply to this lottery, who want the chance to be here, and the 369 of us who are lucky enough to be here. I just said that. The 3,500 people who apply to this lottery and the 369 of us who are lucky enough to be here, we have to have faith that we can do this. And faith that goes way beyond, our legs and our hearts and our heads and our souls and our spirits. You gotta go deep into that place. You have to. And if you get to that starting line with confidence, resilience, and faith, it's not gonna go wrong. It's gonna be hard. It's gonna really, really be hard. And some of you, regrettably, are probably gonna give up and maybe come back here again someday to make it right. People have come back here and made it right. But that's what this is about. That's what the Western States 100 is about, getting it right. Look, we live in a world where there's a whole lot of wrong. Where there's people dying who shouldn't. Where there's people who are fighting who shouldn't. Where there's people who hate who shouldn't. But here in Squaw Valley, on the 4th Saturday in June, there's none of that. We're about love and faith and confidence and resilience. And that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing tonight. That's what we're doing tomorrow. That's what, by God, we're doing on Saturday and Sunday. And if all of you who've bothered to come here tonight can take that away, take that little piece with you when you cross that swinging bridge. It's miserable down there, by the way. It's all nice now that the fire burned it out. There's a nice clean new one that they built. At no small cost to the management, by the way. Or El Dorado Canyon. Or the one everybody forgets about in Volcano Canyon. Or down to the river. That's not all downhill, by the way. Don't let them tell you it's all downhill. It looks like it on that silly little elevation profile, but there's 15 rollers between Cal 1 and Cal 2, and some of them are nasty and they'll kick you in the butt. And then when you get to the river and you smell it and you taste it and you feel it, they let you go uphill again. No, I mean that. They let you go uphill. Do this. Do this for yourself. Do this for the thousands of dollars you've spent coming here. Do this for the 5, 7, 8 years you've waited to get into this race. Do this because this is what makes you a person, a human, something greater than you knew you were, even yesterday. This is the Western States 100. Thank you for coming this evening. I'm thrilled that you all were here. And thank you especially to Danny, Ian, Erika, and Gunhild. We're going to take a short break, and Robert Rhodes, who's down here, is going to set up the film, This Is Your Day, that is an outstanding film depicting the race last year, featuring, among other people, Gunhild, and Erika makes a cameo in it, as well as her significant other, Carl. Grab a drink, take a bathroom break, and we'll see you all for the film starting at 6.